comedians who blur the line between satire and news. Witness Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. But lately, more serious news figures are going for laughs. And even the oh-so-staid PBS NewsHour is getting in on the act. WGBH News reporter Adam Riley has more.
The World Wide Web turns 25 years old today.
When you think of the PBS NewsHour, the term edgy doesn't necessarily spring to mind. But the web series Everything But the News might help change that.
We're going to set up a profile.
We are going to set up your profile. How tall are you really?
I would say 6'2".
Be honest.
5'11".
On EBTN, former NewsHour producer Steve Goldblum plays a bumbling version of himself, covering the high-tech world with humorous ineptitude.
The simple task of hailing a cab has become nearly impossible. I think it's okay. Keep it going.
Goldblum says he's trying to attract viewers that the NewsHour otherwise wouldn't reach.
If we can generate a click for that show that is somewhat a non-traditional viewer of PBS, that was our goal all along.
Injecting satire into the stodgy NewsHour brand might seem like a stretch, but it's right in step with the media zeitgeist.
Accusing the CIA.
On weeknights, Brian Williams is an old-school voice of God anchor, but he's also a burgeoning comedian.
Push it real good.
And then there's CNN's Anderson Cooper, who blends serious coverage with frivolity.
Kathleen keeps saying to me, "Do you want a breast?" I'm like, "Sweetie, no."
Maybe the press is taking cues from the people it covers. In the past few days, John McCain yucked it up with David Letterman. And President Obama did a spoof interview to help sell health care reform.
A lot of young people, they think they're invincible.
Did you say invisible?
Still, if traditional news sources like the NewsHour don't have the authority they used to, these stabs at comedy might be one reason why.
I have to say I don't really get this. Is there any attempt at doing any news in this, in the Everything But the News, or not really?
That was sort of
I watched the debut. I didn't watch any of the others, and you know, it was mildly amusing. I would have liked it to be funnier, but maybe it will get better as it moves on. I don't know.
So I actually watched 3 of them, and you know, these seem like really nice guys, so I hate to say this, but there just didn't seem to be any substance in the satire. The reason Jon Stewart is great is because you actually get a really substantive point of view, and I remember actually being at World News when he did that 9/11 first responders thing and being jealous of that story. I really learned something from it. But this, I mean, so I actually took a note because in episode 3, Modern Love, which was about internet dating, which already I sort of felt like was a tired topic, so I wasn't going to learn that much about it. They had this whole thing where they talked about what Grindr was, but then they never explained it. And I'm sort of guessing the NewsHour audience doesn't know what Grindr is, and if you don't know, you should just Google it. But it's bizarre. You didn't learn anything from any of these 3 pieces, so it was sort of just a little thin to me. I feel really like a naysayer. So.
Yeah, well, I thought it was funnier than you guys. I sort of enjoyed it. I mean, they seemed to be, they were spoofing the news business and the broke reporter and having to push the beds together and the apartment they were staying in San Francisco and stuff. But I just didn't get how it fit. Okay, so you're going to have the introduction to the PBS NewsHour, and then you're going to go to these guys? I mean, I wasn't
That's
clear.
what I'm saying. I don't get it.
Exactly. I wasn't clear how it worked, and that's how it looked when you looked at the...
what's the symbiosis between the NewsHour and this?
I don't know, and that was sort of the problem.
I think, if I understand it correctly, it's just a framework. So it's not really that it's ever going to air on the NewsHour, but that it's the idea to give it more legitimacy and to have it be a spin off the NewsHour brand. And I have to say, I applaud efforts to kind of come up with new and original ideas. I think it's great PBS is trying to do that. I just didn't think this succeeded, really.
John, he doesn't know what he thinks.
Well, no. I'm just trying to figure out how to say this so I'm not going to appear rude to my hosts here.
That's quite all right.
I don't believe that PBS and humor are necessarily synonymous. May I say that with all due respect to all involved? Nor should they be trying to be. And I guess that gets to my serious point, which is all across the media, newspapers, broadcast, everyone's in a panic, trying to figure out how to stop their sliding numbers because the media universe is fractured and fracturing by multiples every day as we speak. How do we keep our audience and maybe even grow it? Well, we've got to be hipper. And no, I just think that's the wrong way to go. As the Tower of Power once said, hipness is what it is. And what it isn't 50, 60-year-old guys and gals trying to think about what's going to be hip to young people.
Well, I think what they're thinking is that if younger people see this video and they say, well, if this is amusing, Gwen and Judy must be hilarious.
As Emily put it, I don't get it.
Yeah. I didn't get the coming together of it. I did think the two guys were funny.
NBC Rock Center tried this with Brian Williams, and it really didn't work. I mean, part of that show was serious. It wasn't like it was all yucks, but there was humor in it, and it didn't last.
But you know something? Anderson Cooper does do it quite well. I think he did have a very serious, it was on 8 and 10, now I guess it's only on 8 o'clock, but he could do very serious news stuff, and then they have this little riffing back and forth with this other reporter. So I think you can have more personality, and one of the things I think it's kind of unfortunate when people have to be so straight and so serious and never smile. That is, tell me what you think about something. You don't have to be opinionated, but you know what I mean?
They're not going to do that on the NewsHour.
Well, last time I saw Anderson Cooper's show, he had a segment at the end called The Ridiculous, which was very sort of he would do a comic riff, and it was very well written. He's a good writer, or he has good writers working for him, and that's fine. I agree with you. There's no reason why everything has to be sober and somber, but again, I think if you try to force hipness immediately, it negates any hipness.
All right, we'll give him a second chance, maybe.